shift isn't about forcing positivity, it's about completeness of perspective. Negative thinking thrives on narrow focus, zooming in exclusively on what's wrong while filtering out everything else. Gratitude widens the lens, allowing us to see both challenges and blessings simultaneously, creating a more balanced and accurate view of reality. Seneca wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." The Stoics understood gratitude not merely as a pleasant emotion but as a virtue, a strength of character that enables us to perceive and respond to life more truthfully and effectively. Modern science confirms their intuition. Research consistently shows that people who practice gratitude experience less depression and anxiety, greater resilience during stress, improved sleep quality, and stronger relationships. So how do we cultivate this practice in daily life? One powerful approach is keeping a gratitude journal. Jennifer Ashton, 52, a hospital administrator from Minneapolis, began this practice during a particularly challenging period of her career. Each evening before bed, she writes down 3 specific things she's grateful for from that day, not general categories like family or health, but particular moments or experiences, the way the morning light filtered through the kitchen window. My colleague Mark's thoughtful feedback on my presentation, the sound of my daughter laughing during our phone call. This specificity matters. It trains your mind to notice and appreciate the texture of daily experience rather than dismissing it as routine. Over time, Jennifer found herself automatically registering moments of beauty, kindness, or joy throughout the day, mentally bookmarking them for her evening reflection. What began as a deliberate practice gradually became a lens through which she viewed her life. Another approach is the mental subtraction technique, imagining your life without something or someone you value. This creates the psychological contrast needed to refresh your appreciation. When we've had something for a long time, a relationship, good health, a home, abilities, our brains adapt to it and we stop registering it as something to appreciate. Anthony, 56, a teacher in Boston, practices this by occasionally imagining his life if he'd never met his partner of 20 years. It immediately cuts through any minor frustrations we're having, he explains. When I picture the absence of this relationship, the conversations never had, the growth never experienced, the memories never created, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for what might easily never have been. For Michael in traffic, this might mean reflecting on how different his life would be without the career opportunity that has him driving downtown in the first place. Without changing his external reality, this mental shift alters his internal experience, reducing stress and enabling more effective responses. Gratitude is particularly powerful for countering one of the most common forms of negative thinking, social comparison. In our hyper-connected age, we're constantly exposed to curated highlights of others' lives, creating fertile ground for envy and inadequacy. When you find yourself falling into comparison, gratitude redirects your attention to your own unique journey and blessings. Carolyn, 39, a marketing executive in Seattle, noticed herself increasingly discontent with her house after scrolling through home design accounts on Instagram. I started keeping a home gratitude list, she explains. Instead of focusing on what our house lacks compared to these perfectly styled images, I know what I love about it. The reading nook where my kids pile in for stories, the kitchen island where friends gather during parties, the sunlight that fills our living room on winter afternoons. This practice doesn't prevent her from making improvements to her home, but it ensures those improvements come from a place of appreciation rather than dissatisfaction, a much healthier and more sustainable motivation. Expressing gratitude to others compounds its benefits, strengthening social bonds while deepening your own appreciation. Dr. Robert Emmons, a leading researcher on gratitude psychology, found that communicating gratitude to others enhances its positive effects beyond simply feeling it privately. Michael Cooper, 44, a software engineer from Portland, implemented a simple practice. Each morning, he sends a brief text or email to someone specific, expressing appreciation for something they've done or simply for their presence in his life. It completely changes how I start my day, he reports. Instead of immediately diving into problems to solve, I begin by recognizing the good that's already present in my life through the people around me. Even during genuine hardship, gratitude remains accessible through what psychologists call benefit finding, identifying elements of growth, learning, or connection within difficult experiences. This doesn't minimize suffering but acknowledges that hardship and value can coexist. When Lisa, 49, went through a difficult career transition after her company downsized, she practiced benefit finding by noting in her journal each evening, "Today, I'm grateful that this challenge has." The completions varied, reconnected me with former colleagues who've been incredibly supportive, pushed me to develop skills I'd been neglecting, shown me how resourceful I can be. This practice didn't make job hunting enjoyable, but it prevented her from defining herself solely as a victim of circumstances, maintaining the psychological flexibility needed to recognize and act on new opportunities. For Michael, stuck in traffic, a gratitude practice might transform his commute from wasted time to valuable transition space. He might use the unexpected delay to listen to an inspiring podcast, call a friend he's been meaning to connect with, or simply practice mindful breathing to arrive at his meeting centered despite being late. By focusing on what he can appreciate rather than what he can't control, he reclaims agency even in circumstances he didn't choose. Gratitude isn't magic. Michael will still be late, Jennifer still faces workplace challenges, and Lisa still needs to find a new job. But by shifting focus from what's lacking to what's present, from what's going wrong to what's available to appreciate, gratitude creates a psychological environment where negative thinking has less power and constructive responses become more accessible. As Marcus Aurelius advised, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. This orientation toward life, seeing it first as gift before addressing its challenges, forms the foundation of a resilient and grounded mind, less susceptible to the distortions of negative thinking and more capable of meeting life's inevitable difficulties with wisdom and equanimity. Lesson 9. Embracing flow, finding peace in impermanence. The Rodriguez family sits around their dining table in San Antonio, the remains of Sunday dinner scattered before them. Carlos, 52, looks at his wife Elena, 49, and their 3 children, Marco, 22, home from college for the weekend, Sofia, 18, preparing for graduation, and Diego, 16. Increasingly independent as he navigates adolescence. Carlos feels a complex mixture of emotions, pride in the adults his children are becoming, nostalgia for the days when they were small, and an undercurrent of anxiety about the changes ahead. Marco will move across the country for graduate school in the fall. Sofia is choosing between universities. Even Diego is talking about summer programs away from home. "I wish we could freeze time," Carlos says, only half joking. "Just stay in this moment a little longer." His words express a universal human tendency, resistance to change, the desire to hold onto what we value, to keep things as they are. This resistance is at the heart of much of our suffering. We cling to pleasant experiences, hoping they'll last forever. We fight against difficult circumstances, refusing to accept their reality. We build elaborate structures of habit and routine to create the illusion of permanence in a world defined by constant flux. The ancient Stoics understood that this resistance creates unnecessary pain. As Marcus Aurelius observed, all things pass away. What we do in life, how we react, and the decisions we make, that's what remains ours. This insight points to one of life's most profound paradoxes. The path to peace isn't found in securing permanence, which is impossible, but in embracing impermanence itself. Heraclitus, a philosopher who influenced Stoic thought, famously stated that no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. This metaphor captures the constant flow of existence. Everything is always changing, including ourselves. Resisting this fundamental truth doesn't stop change, it only creates suffering in the face of it. For Carlos and his family, embracing impermanence doesn't mean feeling no sadness about the transitions ahead. Rather, it means acknowledging these emotions without being overwhelmed by them, recognizing that change, even painful change, is not an aberration to be resisted but the natural order of life to be accepted. This acceptance isn't passive resignation. It's an active, clear-eyed recognition of reality that creates space for constructive response. When we stop expending energy fighting against what is, we can direct that energy toward navigating change skillfully. Jennifer Marshall, 44, discovered this principle during an unexpected career transition. After 15 years building a successful marketing career in Philadelphia, her company was acquired and her position eliminated. Her initial response was denial and resistance, endless rumination about the injustice, fantasies about the acquisition falling through, desperate attempts to maintain her professional identity exactly as it had been. I spent months fighting reality, she recalls. It was exhausting and completely unproductive. The turning point came when I finally accepted that this change had happened and couldn't be undone. That acceptance didn't solve my problems, but it freed me to start addressing them effectively instead of wasting energy on an impossible return to the past. This mental shift exemplifies what the Stoics called amor fati, love of fate, not in the sense of passive submission to events, but as an embracing of reality as it unfolds, including its challenges. Epictetus advised, don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, then your life will flow well. The wisdom of embracing impermanence applies not only to major life transitions but to everyday experiences. How often do we ruin pleasant moments by anxiously anticipating their end? How frequently do we extend the pain of difficult situations by mentally resisting their reality? The practice of accepting flow allows us to be fully present with what is, rather than mentally arguing with reality. Rachel Cohen, 38, a therapist in Denver, describes how this understanding transformed her relationship with chronic pain from an old injury. I spent years fighting against the pain, seeing it as an enemy to vanquish, she explains. The breakthrough came when I began relating to it differently, not as something that shouldn't be happening, but as part of my current reality to be worked with rather than against. This shift didn't eliminate Rachel's physical pain, but it dramatically reduced her mental suffering around it. By dropping the narrative that pain shouldn't be happening, she freed herself from the additional layer of distress that resistance creates. This is what the Buddhists call the second arrow. The first arrow is the unavoidable pain of life. The second, optional arrow is the suffering we create through resistance to that pain. In their family discussion that Sunday evening, Elena offers a perspective that helps Carlos. We're not losing these moments, they're transforming into something new. The family we've been is becoming the family we'll be next. Different, but still connected. This reframing embodies another aspect of embracing impermanence, recognizing that endings and beginnings are two sides of the same coin. Every transition involves both loss and potential. When we fixate exclusively on what's ending, we miss the possibilities being born in the same moment. Marcus Aurelius articulated this cyclical understanding when he wrote, "Observe how all things are continually being born of change. Teach yourself to see that nature's highest happiness lies in changing the things that are and forming new things after their kind." This natural process of transformation isn't something happening to us, it's something we're part of. The practice of embracing impermanence begins with awareness. Notice when you're mentally arguing with reality, when you're thinking, this shouldn't be happening, or I can't stand this changing. This resistance often manifests physically as tension, mentally as rumination, and emotionally as anxiety or anger. Once you recognize resistance, gently shift toward acceptance. This doesn't mean approving of painful situations or refusing to take action for change when appropriate. Rather, it means acknowledging what is true in this moment, even as you work towards something different. A powerful phrase from Stoic practice is, "This too shall pass." Applied to both pleasant and difficult experiences, this reminder helps calibrate our perspective. It prevents us from clinging desperately to joyful moments, allowing us to appreciate them fully without the anxiety of anticipated loss. It also provides comfort during hardship, reminding us that no state, however painful, is permanent. Michael Sanderson, 57, applied this practice during a difficult period caring for his mother with dementia. There were days when the grief and stress felt unbearable, he shares. Reminding myself this too shall pass didn't diminish the real challenges, but it helped me avoid catastrophizing. It wasn't going to be like this forever, even though in the midst of it, it felt endless. Another practice for embracing impermanence is mindful attention to transition moments in daily life, the shift from day to night, the changing of seasons, the birthday that marks another year. Instead of moving through these transitions on autopilot or with resistance, we can use them as opportunities to practice conscious acceptance of change. Lisa Westbrook, 46, an artist in Chicago, creates seasonal rituals for her family that honor transitions rather than ignoring them. When summer ends, we don't just mourn the loss of warmth and freedom. We consciously welcome autumn with a special dinner where we share what we're looking forward to in the coming season. It teaches my children that change brings both endings and beginnings and helps them develop flexibility rather than rigid attachment. For Carlos and his family, embracing impermanence means holding their Sunday dinners precious without clinging to them, appreciating the unique configuration of this moment while remaining open to the new forms their family life will take. It means acknowledging the sadness of upcoming separations without labeling these changes as wrong or allowing anxiety about the future to steal from their present connection. 6 months later, with Marco studying across the country and Sofia settled at university just an hour away, the Rodriguez family creates a new Sunday tradition, a video call that brings them together across distances. It's different from their dinners around the table, carrying both loss and discovery. By embracing rather than resisting this flow, they find themselves able to appreciate what remains and what's newly emerging in their evolving family constellation. As Seneca wisely noted, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. When we truly internalize this truth, not just intellectually but emotionally, we develop the capacity to move through life's inevitable changes with greater grace and less suffering. Finding peace not in static permanence but in conscious participation in the flowing river of experience. Lesson 10. Living on purpose, finding direction amid chaos. David Chin, 45, sits in his sleek corner office overlooking San Jose's tech corridor. As Chief Technology Officer at a successful software company, he's achieved what many would consider the pinnacle of professional success, influence, recognition, and financial security. Yet as the California sun sets beyond his floor-to-ceiling windows, a familiar emptiness settles in his chest. On paper, David has everything he once aspired to attain. But increasingly, he finds himself wondering, is this all there is? The metrics that once motivated him, career advancement, compensation packages, industry status, now feel hollow. The question he can't escape isn't about what he's achieved, but why it matters. At the heart of much negative thinking lies a fundamental lack of direction. When we don't have a clear sense of purpose, a why that transcends circumstance and gives meaning to both success and struggle, it's easy to feel lost, unmotivated, or overwhelmed by life's inevitable challenges. Purpose acts like a compass, guiding our thoughts, actions, and decisions through both calm seas and storms. Marcus Aurelius addressed this directly when he wrote, "People who labor all their lives but have no purpose to direct every thought and impulse are wasting their time, even when hard at work." This observation cuts to the core of modern discontent, the possibility of being busy, productive, and successful by external standards while feeling internally adrift. Purpose isn't just about what you achieve. It's about aligning your daily actions with your deepest values and what genuinely matters to you. It provides context for challenges, clarity for decisions, and a foundation that negative thinking struggles to erode. For David, the journey toward purpose begins with a simple but profound question: what would success mean if I defined it? Not his industry's definition, not his parents' expectations, not social media's highlight reel, but his authentic values. This inquiry leads him to realize that while he values the creativity and problem-solving of his work, what truly matters to him is using technology to address meaningful human challenges. This clarity doesn't prompt him to abandon his career, but to redirect it. He begins volunteering with an organization that teaches coding to underserved youth. He initiates a company initiative focused on accessibility features for users with disabilities. These aren't separate from his professional work, they're expressions of purpose through his existing role. Seneca wrote, "If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable." Without purpose, even favorable circumstances and opportunities can feel directionless. With purpose, even challenges become meaningful parts of a larger journey. Consider Maria Gonzalez, 51, who built a successful restaurant business in Chicago. After a devastating fire destroyed her flagship location, she faced enormous practical and financial challenges. What carried her through wasn't just determination but purpose. Her restaurant wasn't merely a business but an expression of her family's culinary heritage and a gathering place for her community. "If I had been in it just for profit, I might have taken the insurance money and walked away," she explains. "But I understood why this work mattered to me beyond dollars. That clarity gave me the strength to rebuild when logic might have said to quit." Purpose acts as an antidote to negative thinking in several ways. First, it provides perspective during difficulties. When you're clear about what matters most, temporary setbacks and challenges become part of a larger narrative rather than defining moments. Second, purpose helps filter out distractions and unnecessary comparisons. In a world of endless options and constant exposure to others' choices, purpose provides criteria for discernment. Without it, you're vulnerable to chasing whatever society currently values or comparing yourself to metrics that may not reflect what truly matters to you. James Patterson, 47, a high school teacher in Minneapolis, describes how purpose shields him from negative comparisons. "I have friends who make 3 times my salary in corporate jobs. Without clarity about my purpose in education, I might constantly feel I'm falling short financially. But when I remember why I teach, the moments of breakthrough with students, the privilege of shaping young minds, those comparisons lose their power." Third, purpose connects daily actions to deeper meaning, transforming routine into ritual. Even mundane tasks take on significance when understood as expressions of what matters most. Sarah Kim, 38, a hospice nurse in Philadelphia, explains, "The administrative paperwork in healthcare can seem tedious. But when I see it as part of providing dignity and comfort to patients in their final days, my deepest purpose, even filling out forms, becomes meaningful. It's not just paperwork, it's part of how I honor human life at its most vulnerable stage." So how do you discover and build a purpose-driven life? Start by reflecting on moments when you felt most alive, engaged, and fulfilled. What were you doing? Who were you serving? What values were you expressing? These peak experiences often contain clues to your deeper purpose. For David, this reflection reveals that his most satisfying moments weren't receiving industry awards or closing major deals, but rather mentoring younger engineers and seeing technology solutions make genuine differences in users' lives. These memories point toward a purpose centered around using his technical expertise to empower others, a far more sustaining why than status or advancement. Next, consider what problems or needs in the world naturally draw your attention and concern. We often find purpose at the intersection of what matters to us and what's needed in our communities. This doesn't necessarily require grand global ambitions. Purpose can be expressed in local, intimate ways. Elena Martinez, 42, a financial analyst in San Antonio, discovered her purpose when repeatedly noticing how many women in her community struggled with basic financial literacy. This observation, combined with her professional skills, led to a weekend workshop series that has grown into a significant community resource. Her purpose, empowering financial independence, flows through both her career and volunteer work. Another approach is to clarify your core values, the principles that matter most to you regardless of external reward or recognition. Common examples include creativity, connection, service, growth, integrity, and family. When you identify your most essential values, you can intentionally design your life to express them daily. Robert Jackson, 56, restructured his successful law practice around his core value of justice, shifting from corporate work to representing clients who wouldn't otherwise have access to quality legal representation. His income decreased, but his sense of purpose and satisfaction dramatically increased. "I'm still using the same legal skills," he explains, "but now they're aligned with what truly matters to me." Purpose doesn't need to be a single, dramatic mission. Many people express purpose through multiple channels: career, relationships, creativity, community involvement, personal growth. What matters isn't the specific form, but the alignment between your deepest values and how you live each day. For David, this understanding brings liberation. Rather than feeling he needs to abandon his career to find meaning, he sees how his existing skills and position can become vehicles for his emerging purpose. This shift doesn't eliminate all challenges or moments of doubt, but it transforms his relationship to them. 6 months into his intentional purpose work, David faces a major setback when a project he championed fails to meet expectations. In the past, this situation would have triggered intense negative thinking, questioning his abilities, fearing for his professional reputation, perhaps even spiraling into questions about his worth. With purpose as his foundation, his perspective is different. The setback is real and disappointing, but it's no longer an existential threat because his sense of value isn't exclusively tied to this particular outcome. He can assess what went wrong, learn from the experience, and continue expressing his purpose through new initiatives. Marcus Aurelius counseled, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I have to go to work as a human being.'" This reminder cuts through the fog of negative thinking by connecting daily activities to our deeper humanity and purpose. We rise not just to complete tasks or meet obligations, but to express who we truly are and what genuinely matters. As you navigate negative thinking patterns, consider how a clearer sense of purpose might transform your perspective. When challenges arise, ask, How does this connect to what matters most to me? What values can I express even in this difficult situation? When making decisions, consider which choice best aligns with my deeper purpose. By building a life anchored in purpose, you create a foundation that negative thinking struggles to shake. Even amid inevitable difficulties, you maintain access to a sense of meaning and direction that transcends temporary circumstances. A North Star guiding you through life's darkest nights toward dawn. As our journey through Stoic wisdom for conquering negative thinking comes to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on the path we've traveled together. We've explored 10 powerful strategies rooted in ancient philosophy yet perfectly suited for navigating our modern challenges. We began with the fundamental Stoic insight that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our perceptions of them. Like Jessica Taylor facing client criticism in New York, we discovered that by controlling our interpretations, we gain freedom from unnecessary suffering. This principle forms the foundation upon which all other mental mastery is built. We then explored how negative thought patterns take root in our past experiences and self-protective mechanisms. By understanding these origins, as Dr. James Rivera did in Phoenix, we can begin to loosen their grip and challenge their authority in our lives. Through Catherine West's story in Houston, we witnessed how the mind can be renovated, negative patterns unlearned and replaced with more constructive ones. We saw that thoughts are habits, not immutable truths, and that with practice, we can change the mental landscapes we inhabit. Ryan Alvarez in San Diego showed us the profound impact of our environments, digital, physical, and social. By curating these influences intentionally, we create an ecosystem where positive thinking can naturally flourish. With Megan Thompson in Philadelphia, we discovered how action disrupts negative thinking cycles. When we focus on what's within our control and take purposeful steps forward, we break the paralysis that negativity creates. Eliza Montgomery's journey in Los Angeles revealed the power of words to shape our reality. By changing our internal dialogue and external communication, we transform the very structure of our thoughts and experiences. Dr. Alicia Jackson's resilience in Dallas demonstrated that we can develop the capacity to bend without breaking, to meet life's inevitable challenges with courage and clarity rather than being overwhelmed by them. Through Michael Reeves' practice of gratitude in Chicago traffic, we learned how shifting focus from what's missing to what's present creates a more balanced and accurate view of reality. The Rodriguez family in San Antonio taught us the peace that comes from embracing impermanence, accepting change as the natural order of life rather than resisting it in futile struggle. And finally, David Chen's search for meaning in San Jose illuminated how purpose provides direction amid chaos, a compass that guides our thoughts and actions even during our most challenging moments. These aren't separate techniques but interconnected facets of a single transformative approach to life, one that acknowledges difficulty without being defined by it, that faces reality squarely while maintaining the power to choose our response. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This wisdom is your inheritance, a proven path to mental freedom tested across centuries and cultures. As you move forward from this conversation, I encourage you to begin with one practice that resonated most strongly. Perhaps it's questioning your perceptions, practicing gratitude, or clarifying your purpose. Start small but consistently, knowing that each step builds momentum toward a more clear-minded, resilient way of being. Remember, negative thinking isn't your natural state, it's simply a habit you've developed. And with the wisdom of Stoicism as your guide, it's a habit you have the power to change one thought at a time. The journey toward mental freedom begins now with your next thought. You've got this. If you found this exploration of Stoicism insightful, I encourage you to subscribe for more content that delves into the wisdom of ancient philosophy and its relevance to modern life. Share this discussion with others who may benefit from these insights, and together, let us cultivate a community committed to personal growth and self-improvement.